Dear viewers, welcome to the second episode of Skylander's Superchargers Mini Speed Drawing. I should probably find a shorter name for that, but Mini Superchargers. This was exciting. This is Astroblast. He is my favorite of all the light elements. I know he is not really anybody's favorite anything, frankly, but I really enjoy his character. His moveset is fun. There is a kind of pointless prism move, but I have not tried that upgrade path on him yet. So once I get his legendary version, that is a to-do thing for me. I want to try that upgrade path and see how that plays out. Yes, I know that there is a feature in Superchargers where you can just swap upgrade paths, and I've used that before. Unfortunately, my accounts have been kind of reset for some convoluted reasons, so I no longer have that ability, and it's gonna take me a while to get to that, so I'm not gonna worry about that for now. Either way, I love his character. He's very fun. He's a very confident character. Bit of a show-off, but I love it, and he's got great chemistry with our other characters. So what I'm going with here for his face, you can see I basically drew his entire face and then redid it all. What I want him to look like as a kid, it's very, very excited. Everything in the world as a little kid for Astroblast is absolutely wonderful. It's fun. He just cannot sit still. He's gonna be doing. And some kids really are like that. It doesn't mean every day is cheery and wonderful, but they just love so much about the world around them. And for him being a space ranger, explorer, specialized missions, this is a perfect start for him in his little journey. Come to think of it, like, the explanation we get for the existence of minis is not very good, considering that minis have the exact same backstory as their counterparts, but then they're also described as being the proteges to their counterparts rather than a younger version of them, and of course the difference in the name. So it's very interesting. I'm sure someone could come up with a time potion magic mashup thing to make it all make sense. But honestly, when I'm drawing these guys, I am drawing the characters themselves as little kids. And we're calling them minis so that they can technically exist in the same world. That's what I'm going with. Okay, so yeah, with Astroblast here, part of the biggest thing to make him look younger, he's a bit trickier, because he's not got some obvious things to exaggerate. So giving him much more rounded features in the face, a bit chubbier cheeks, that's a very key element. Cheeks are one of the easiest ways to make a character look younger, give them chubby cheeks. And then just smoothing out any chiseled features he would have had. So while his spikes up top might have been a bit more pointed on his actual figure or profile, make those a little more rounded, makes him a bit softer. And then of course, blow up the eyes. The eyes are easiest part. His position is pretty dynamic one that I was going for. Having to work on the perspective here for the gun. I'm not usually a person, so a lot of artists like to lay out how their drawing is gonna look like. I'll do that occasionally with some rough sketches, but overall, I kind of wing it. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Depends on how long I fiddle with it. And a big part of it is that I draw a line, I erase it. I draw 10 lines, I erase it down to 1. This is very messy sketching you're seeing right here. Whereas with Nightfall last time, I had to be a lot cleaner in most of my initial sketches because of the vector layer issue. If you watch that video, you'll know what that was. This is a normal layer, just pixels, and I am so happy with it. I'm not gonna fight that ever again. I did fiddle a while with his gun here, didn't I? Honestly, I probably took more time than I should have with Astroblast, but I just had a lot of fun doing it. It didn't feel like it took that long overall. I do like the spikes back here. It is blaster. It's pretty fun. The sun here kind of looks weird at this angle, but it works. I don't think anybody's going to notice it until I point it out like that. It's functional. It's there. It exists. The edges of his blaster are actually a bit more rounded, I've noticed, on his figure. It's not a hard-cut prism triangle, and I kind of like that look. It's a bit more fun to draw than just sharp points. It gives it, that really lends itself to that more three-dimensional look in artwork. Yeah. Fiddling with his size here, and compared to the other ones that I've done so far, he is definitely much more blown up. And frankly, he's a little bit of an oddball because I actually went a bit too detailed in his making. And you'll see that really when I get into his coloration, that I just kind of spend a bit too much time fiddling with the crystalline look. And while that's a lot of fun, I love drawing gemstones and crystals. I collect gemstones more than I collect Skylanders, frankly. Name a gemstone and I probably have it. And so I really, really enjoy drawing that and fiddling with how to make it look right. But it honestly hurt the overall image, I think. And here with his legs, I actually should have brought his, so his left, on the right side of the picture you'll see though. I honestly should have brought that in, and I should have made his feet bigger. That's one thing I wish I had done. I wasn't really paying attention. I just got a bit too lost in the details. And frankly, I think I kind of forgot at some point that I'm making a miniature version of Astroblast. I definitely got the attitude right, but some of the sizing could have been reworked a little bit to get, the dumb stars. I clicked on the wrong brush, and because I was so zoomed in, I didn't realize that I actually touched the screen with it. And then I zoomed out, and there were a few giant stars that I had to erase, and I'd already made a bunch of other lines, so I couldn't just back out of them. Dumb mistakes that I made, but it's all good and fun. Yeah, there I am closing in his leg a little bit, but I honestly should have made his feet a lot bigger to make it look a lot more clumsy. Either way, though, I still think he looks good overall. Get that big, happy look on him. He's got a toy gun, and he loves it. Actually, no, he doesn't have a toy. He has a real gun, and he loves it, which is 10 times more dangerous with a kid. If any of you have ever worked with or been around young boys, and you get a boy who really gets into guns, it is quite the thing. It's funny. Very funny. And Astroblast is absolutely one of those characters. Any kind of weapon, so cool to play with, hours and hours of entertainment. This is a guy who's known what he loves pretty much his whole life, and it's just run with it. Honestly, with his patches, I feel like I could have done a little more there than just kind of throw him in the way his figure had him. Maybe if I don't know. Oh, here's an interesting thing that I realized. So, for typically when I do these drawings, I have both the figure and I have the official artwork for them. I'm looking at both of those for references and kind of picking the best in between for coloration, position. Figure is really helpful because you have a 360 view of them, so you can really understand their angles. That's a huge, huge help. Drawing original art from your head at dynamic angles is 10 times harder. But something I didn't realize till later into the artwork. Oh yeah, trying to get the angle of his little grooves. I've spent way too long fiddling with that for something that really doesn't matter at the end. What I was going to say is that the picture I actually think that I had in the book is reversed. Sometimes they'll mirror images to make it look right in a setting, and what I was looking at wasn't just a picture online. I actually had his picture from the Skylander Superchargers book. I just got the Kindle edition ages and ages ago, and I was just looking at that for his reference. But what that changed up is that I didn't realize that his pipe on his figure and his picture were swapped. And so I actually ended up, what it should be is, overall it doesn't matter which side you put it on in artwork, other than the fact that the pipe should be the opposite to he's got a yellow triangle going across his belly, and that triangle tip should be under the pipe. And I did that backwards here because I realized too late that things were swapped and I was going with the two references, and I never did fix that. I don't know how late I added it in the first place. But yeah, interesting thing, something to look out for if you're ever trying to draw. Pay attention to that your reference isn't mirrored. Oh, this is fun, just the blast. This here, I'm kind of gonna pretty much incorporate into the background, so I'm not gonna worry too much about details there. A little bit of a... So the benefit to adding that little rim, even though it's such tiny, tiny detail, is it kind of helps your eyes realize that no, he is not necklace. It is just kind of buried under his collar. Small details like that can do a lot for what your brain interprets. So you can see here at the top spike how it's not a flat spike, it's kind of a rounded in the middle. The tip is still pretty pointy. Widening the smile. I wanted to get a very big-eyed, happy look on him. The funny thing about contrasting big-eyed and happy, which is why I fiddled with his eyes so much and so weirdly at the beginning, was because when you're happy, your eyes actually squint a good bit. You shrink your eyes. But then you get excited and your eyes widen. So we've got two elements that mesh together but contrast each other in that look. And really the key is in the eyebrows, typically when you are doing a drawing like this. Astroblast does not have eyebrows. I kind of get a cheat later on once they manage to get into coloring. And yeah, coloring, always fun. Again, starting with a background that is fairly neutral. I'm not going to leave a purple background on Astroblast, but it really helps with the fact that he is a white crystalline creature. And so I'm working with a lot of very, very, very light grays and whites. The center of his eyes there are truly white. The rest you can tell is gray. And it looks really gray right now, but once it's finished, your brain will just kind of... Your brain will start to accept something as shadow rather than as a changed color. There's a lot of really cool psychology on color perception. I'm sure there's, I think it's on Netflix, there was this brain games show, and I think they showed a bit with light and how your brain, based on what the color something is next to, will think it is either darker or lighter when it is in fact the same exact color. Lots of cool stuff there, and that applies significantly to art. Okay, so here's some of the fun stuff with making something prismatic. Layering your shades to make something look like you're looking through it. I don't know how to describe it. It's something you just gotta kind of try and figure out, but basically the depth you are looking at, the deeper the depth, the darker the color in the back. So here, this triangle here is actually the inside of his gun. It is, or essentially, or I should say, yeah, the inside of the metal casing. Let's go with that. And then beside that is the gray for the rim of the gun. Kind of fogging it up because he is not transparent, he is translucent. That is a fancy word to say, is that it's kind of clear, but it's also kind of foggy. I went ahead and added some sparkles to it. I really like, it's not in his official artwork, but on the figure it's got this kind of glittery stuff to it, and I enjoyed that. Like I said, I went way over detailed on this, frankly, compared to what I did with Nightfall, just kind of the flatter colors and basic shading. I definitely went back to that on the next drawing, the more simple look, and I think it helps better for this. Okay, so here's where I really kind of got lost in the fun of making the crystalline shapes. I wasn't trying to be perfect or make it look realistic, just enough to kind of give an impression. You can, with a lot of stuff like that, with, say, background of trees and leaves, just kind of texturing things, you can make it kind of look like crystalline here without actually following the correct geometric forms. Adding in the highlights now. Never quite using pure white. That is something I kind of reserve for the eyes when I have creatures with pure white eyes. There's a lot of Skylanders with pure white eyes. It's interesting. Kind of a fun aesthetic, though. So while I generally did kind of spaced out, I added more of the lights to the light source and more of the dark patches to the shaded area. Rather than go with an airbrush, I just used those, and I think it worked well overall. And zooming out, he looks pretty decent, but I actually came into a funny unintentional problem, which is why what I'm going back and trying to fix right now, and pronounce his eyebrows. So I gave him eyebrows here because the crystalline formation, that is accurate to what his picture has, but the way it tilts kind of gives his eyebrows a concerned look. That is not what I want at all. I'm not sure I've managed to combat that entirely appropriately, properly, whatever. There's definitely still that crease between his eyebrows. Oh man, that's still, those subtle changes. Your brain is so hardwired to read emotions and read them accurately that tiny little details like that can fool your brain into seeing a different emotion than what you intend to convey. So expressions are a key thing to get right, and I kind of flopped this one a little bit with his crystalline formation. So that is something to know going in the future, because these mini drawings are kind of practice drawings with these characters, frankly. They're fun, they're simple, inconsequential. I have some bigger projects with them in mind, and this is something to keep in mind, is to pay attention to his crystal creases so that they don't alter his expression, they just are a part of his skin. Again, with the silvers, always add a little bit of blue, typically. It depends on the kind of metal you're going for, but for metal grays like here, to contrast well with the white, just a tiny bit of blue in your gray makes it look a lot better. Otherwise, it kind of looks a bit brown, frankly. His patches and his tube there. I'm curious what the tube actually is. I'll have to look into that, see if there's any information on that. Totally forgot his wristband here for a while. I had to go back and do that. They're an interesting dark mustard color, but it works well. Leaves the yellow stripe on his stomach to stand out more. Also, I forgot to mention with his face, I also added a little bit more yellow to that coloring, yellow-orange. Seeing it in contrast with his gloves, it makes it a bit more obvious. I think with his, suit, I just kind of went with the pure grayscale, very light. It looks actually white right now. It is still, again, very light gray. But you can see right next to his laser gun here that there is a slight color change in that, not the same kind of white. And that's a thing with working with whites and blacks both. Those slight alterations can give you a ton of variety to work with. Got to see for a split second what it looks like without the line art. Typically, I'll do the line art on its own layer and then color on the layer below. Here's again where I kind of got lost in the details. His art does have some fun ruffles on his suit, and for these drawings I actually don't want to go too much into clothing creases unless it is like a seam on the clothes, so that is something I actually shouldn't have done to keep with the overall aesthetic. Doesn't hurt though. This image on its own is great. Some basic shading from here on out then. I think it's getting pretty close to done. Okay, yeah, you can see on the triangle how I got it totally wrong, the yellow triangle on across his belly. Overall though, I am happy with this project. I love Astroblast, he's fun. Little Astroblast was he was a blast to draw, there you go. Dumb puns, but it's Skylanders, who cares? So, thank you all for joining me on this. Oh wait, hang on, no, I've got a whole nother minute of just doing the background in Blast. Oh yeah, I did texture his patches too. They are an interesting texture. I think they are just pads. say with the blast here, just going very loose on colors. I'm actually going to erase the black lines on it, which is why I'm turning off the line layer to get it that very light effect. Light is fun to draw, frankly. Not a big deal if you don't get it right, just play around with it till it looks good. Then yeah, I just erase what's under the shards there. And it comes to life. See, I'm erasing the lines now, and then it just looks like a little light blast. Nightfall's background color I wasn't happy with afterwards. It looked okay when I first did it. This here's a lot more what I wanted to go with. It's still a bit brown, maybe add a little more yellow into it. I'm kind of going for like an aged paper look to be the backdrop of these. And when I finish all 6 that I'm going to do, I'll put them all together on a single sheet to kind of present them all together. It'll look good. With the pieces here, I'm just kind of darkening the background so it looks like he is shooting the background itself. Very simple, very simple. No, not too detailed. But yeah, there he is, little asteroid. Oh, fiddling with the wording and the stuff. Thank you all for watching, and till next time, thank you so much for joining.